dogged Obama's presidency from the beginning. His political opponents and some of those in his own party have blocked his efforts. The White House wanted to move and try some detainees in U.S. courts, but Congress made that impossible. Obama has also found it hard to find countries willing to take those released from Guantanamo, and his administration now says some prisoners will just stay locked up without trial indefinitely. Now that the review into detention policy at Guantanamo Bay has been completed, charges are expected soon for at least 3 detainees who were charged under the Bush administration and who've been deemed eligible to stand trial, but whose cases were dropped in 2009 so the review could take place. John Terrett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Now, new video has surfaced of the September 11th attacks in New York on the World Trade Center.
It's gone! It's the whole tower! It's gone!
This footage was shot from inside a police helicopter that was hovering above the Twin Towers. The 17 minutes of footage was part of a cache of evidence the city of New York had handed over to an agency that was studying the structural collapse of the towers. To Colombia, where at least 23 oil workers have been kidnapped by suspected gunmen from the Revolutionary Armed Forces called FARC. It happened in the country's eastern department of Vichada. The abducted men are all believed to be Colombian. They were working for a Canadian oil company. Egypt's caretaker prime minister says restoring security is the priority for his new government. Essam Sharaf spoke to journalists just hours after the new-look cabinet was sworn in. And Egypt's prosecutor has now ordered the detention of 47 police officers for burning secret security documents. Egyptians have been trying to gain access to the information that was gathered by the ousted President Hosni Mubarak's regime. Meanwhile, thousands of Coptic Christians have joined the protests in Cairo. They want an end to the discrimination they say that they face as a minority group. The protesters blocked the 6th of October bridge and chanted anti-discrimination slogans. More than 50 people have been killed in Sudan in the last 2 days alone. Southern soldiers are fighting 2 separate rebel groups in Jonglei and Upper Nile State. All sides have suffered casualty, but it's unclear how many civilians have been killed in the crossfire. The violence continues to plague the south, which will officially become a new country in July. Only 4 days ago, 33 people were killed in the disputed Abyei region. The United States has promised more than $12 million in aid to refugees fleeing violence in Côte d'Ivoire. Opposition fighters have reportedly seized the town of Touleblu, previously held by troops backing Laurent Gbagbo. Fighting between supporters of Gbagbo and those of his rival Alassane Ouattara is now the worst since the 2002 civil war. Mohamed Addo has more from Abidjan.
Ruling the streets of Abidjan, young men take matters into their own hands. Hundreds of them pouring into the streets, setting up roadblocks and searching drivers. They say they are here to help the police and army ensure that Laurent Gbagbo remains the president of their country. Their loyalty to the man is unshakable.
We shall die to protect Gbagbo, and we are doing this to defend the constitution of Côte d'Ivoire. Ouattara is going against the very constitution he voted for.
They take nothing to chance. Nothing misses their attention, and they don't mind who they upset.
I don't appreciate their attitude. I urge them to be polite as they go about what they're doing.
These young men say that their work on the streets has largely been successful and that they managed to nab a number of firearms destined for the rebels in the north. They are also understand instructions to ensure that the movement of UN personnel here in the capital is curtailed.
The UN forces have shown they are not impartial. They are biased. They are responsible for what is happening in Côte d'Ivoire. They have been arming and transporting rebels.
Conditions continue to worsen for civilians as the violence spirals. At least 200,000 people have been displaced, particularly from Abidjan, according to the United Nations. More than 360 people have also died since November. It's a toll that's bound to rise even higher if the current political crisis continues. Mohamed Addo, AlJazeera, Abidjan.
Well, still to come on the programme, we'll have all the latest on the situation in Libya. Plus, oil prices have reached 2-year highs, fueled by the unrest in the Middle East. We'll take a look at the impact this could have on the global economic recovery. And celebrating International Women's Day, we meet one software engineer from China who's going head-to-head with the search engine Google.
Hello once again. We've got another winter storm making its way across the United States. Now, over the last couple of days, we've seen this particular storm system easing further eastwards. Eastern thirds had some awful weather. That's going to continue drifting a little further eastwards. New England seeing some of the wintry flurries as we go on through the next 24 hours or so into eastern parts of Canada. It will only make way for the next storm system, which is currently pushing its way across the Rockies. And as we go on through Tuesday, then we'll see that wintry weather diving its way over the mountain states, pushing right the way towards the prairies. Very wet weather also affecting southernmost parts by this stage. So some poor conditions to come for many. Meanwhile, it should be drier over towards the eastern side of the country, even drier too over towards the west. But just notice there'll be some wintry weather just around the Pacific Northwest into western Canada. Rain, sleet and snow to come here then. We got some rain to come into Central America, southern parts of Central America, just around Nicaragua. That aside, it's fine and dry. The Caribbean looking lovely. Temperatures getting up to 27, 28 degrees. Plenty of pleasant sunshine to come. Good deal of sunshine too into much of Europe, but for the southeastern corner, a return to winter. It's very cold here. There'll be more snow to come. Athens with a top temperature of 6.
Hello again. The latest developments from Libya. State television there has denied reports that Colonel Gaddafi was trying to strike a deal with the rebels that would see him step down. Meanwhile, the anti-Gaddafi forces are now calling for international help with their fight against the government. In the west of the country, close to the capital Tripoli, the rebels have lost control of AlJazeera, and they appear to be losing ground in other cities too. Meanwhile, President Barack Obama says Washington and its allies are still considering a military response to the situation in Libya. Gulf Arab leaders have also called for the UN to enforce a no-fly zone. Now, oil prices have risen to their highest levels in 2.5 years on Monday. Further price hikes could damage economic recovery. Rosalind Jordan reports.
On the world oil markets, prices have been moving in just one direction, up. In New York, above $105 a barrel. In Europe, reaching $115, a nearly 20% rise since the beginning of the year. Libya is not the biggest oil producer by any means, but it's significant, and lower output from there does raise prices. But that's not the only thing at play. Oil is one of the most actively traded commodities in the world. Whole companies exist to profit on price changes.
There's a tremendous amount of intraday profit